I tried to have notes. Give me 1 second. My hands are shaking because my passport walked away. Okay, cool. So today I came in really wanting to talk about perfectionism. Like the first time he mentioned senior sermons, I said, finally, I can let out all the middle school rage from being a pastor's child my whole life. But it did not end up that way, because every time I started to try to draft it, it would either completely fail or morph into what we're actually going to be talking about today, which is how God pursues us even when we reach our lowest point. So I will say one thing on perfection is that every measure of perfection that we can attain is found in obedience to God. Since he's already perfect, the best thing we can do is to turn to him for support when we're at our worst. Because God never asks us for perfection, he actually only asks us for obedience. So I thought I'd start with a story because analogies are my favorite thing to do. So I heard a lot of people talk about how life is like a roller coaster. I want to think about it as a skyscraper because that's fun to me. So I have a slide for that, hopefully. Oh, look at that, my little skyscraper. There was no gifts for it online, so I had to make it myself, and it was very hard. So appreciate it. All right, so I think life's a skyscraper. It has a very specific start and a very specific end, and it's only one of them. You can't ride it again like we're roller coasters. So if life is a skyscraper, you are the elevator. People can go up and down, take you wherever they want to go, and then just leave. You have no power over where you're going or when or how. It's just happening, and the cables are going to take you where you need to go as you hang on for dear life. So eventually, you're going to have to go to the basement. The lowest point in the skyscraper, the lowest point in your life, you're going to have to go there because someone's going to take you there. And the only way out of that again is to not let go of the cables. They're what are going to pull you out again, just like the thing that got you in there. But just because the elevator hit the bottom of the shaft doesn't mean that it's broken. I know we've all heard the stories of like, it's broken and they don't know the bottom. That's not what's happening. They just wanted to go to the bottom floor, and now you're there. That's not bad. The elevator was built with that stop in mind. It's intentional. Just like it's meant to go to the top, it's going to go to the bottom. And suffering is not mean you're failing. It's rarely a punishment. God has shown again and again that's not really how he works. Suffering is meant to strengthen our reflex to reach for him first. The better we get at this, the closer we're going to be. So in this, God would be the rails, the cording things, He's the support system that's pulling you up and down where you need to go. And you have to hold on to that because he's what's going to get you out of it. So I think sometimes we get the wrong idea of what perfection with God means because we always use the before photos of people in the Bible, and sometimes we just brush over the after. I remember up here a while ago, we covered Hosea and Gomer, and we spent most of the time looking at how horrible Gomer was and how wrong she was and how worthless she was viewed as and how God loved her anyway. Now that's a great message to know that our failure doesn't matter to him, but we do need to remember that that wasn't her whole story. If you aren't familiar, Hosea was a prophet who God asked to marry a prostitute to show how God loved Israel when they were unfaithful. So he did, he married her. That was Gomer. But the book doesn't spend much time on the people themselves and mostly talks about the prophecy God is making. So we don't see it spelled out for us in the Bible how Gomer reacted to the unexpected pursuit from God. So here's my guess. Pause for a sec. So we can all assume how Gomer felt before the marriage. She lived in a time where she had very little choice over herself. There were many laws and customs and expectations that further limited her behavior. And a lot of that we still experience today. Now, we don't know the exact situation that pushed her to selling herself to others, but we know the effects it had on her life. Society shunned her. All her friends, her family, even the church would not associate with her. With so much at stake with the effects of these actions, no one would choose this life for themselves carelessly. So she must have had something she considered worse that she was running from to choose this. Then, God sent Hosea to marry her. Gomer probably didn't know him. She may have heard of him, but probably not personally. And from her perspective, he could very well just be using her as an illustration to show how great he was, like Pharisees would tend to do. When she was with him, she had 3 children with Hosea in that marriage. That's something that added great value to how a woman was perceived. So already it was doing good things for her. But Hosea named them to further the example God was trying to make through their family, as God commanded. But I think Gomer had had enough of the constant expectations placed on her, and I think she was too scared to have to fulfill the weight of the whole prophecy and being a representation of the Lord. So she took control back of her life the only way she knew how. She turned back to prostitution and stopped living with Hosea. She saw security in what she knew and what she knew she could provide for herself, even though she knew it wouldn't make her happy. But what I don't think she expected was for Hosea to come back for her. She had lived so much of her life being told that she was worthless, and she'd been treated like it for so long that she stopped trying to be anything else. Even when she was eventually lifted out of that situation, the unfamiliarity of it all had her running back to the world she knew, even though it was broken. As someone who never knew the value she held in God's eyes, I don't think Gomer had experienced the pursuit of God has for us. You can't just walk away from God like any other altar or person. He's never going to stop walking after you, for the moment when you can meet him again. So, have y'all ever seen those movies where there's a monster and it's incredibly slow, and yet it's still absolutely terrifying? Like Michael Myers? Perfect, this is going somewhere. Do you know why that's scary? Because you know the monster is going to do everything in its power to get to you. So if it's not using all of its energy right now, meanwhile you're working at 120% to get away, it must be pretty confident that you won't be hard to catch. And if it's operating outside of physics, if it has a plan you can't counter, you know it's going to catch up eventually. So basically, God is like Michael Myers. No matter how far or how fast you run or try to dissuade him, he's going to be right there with you. Even in those moments when you think you're all alone, the wind is going to shift, and you're going to realize he's standing right behind you. So yeah, God pursues us, and Addie's ashamed of me, and I'm so happy. God pursues us. We don't know why, but he just does, because that's who he is, and that's who he was to Gomer in this situation. After Gomer left, God explained to Hosea how this fit into his plan, and he instructed Hosea to go and buy her back from her father. So he did. He essentially renewed their marriage and asked her to come live with him again, and she did. Now right there is the moment that I think Gomer fully realized the love of God had for her. The marriage probably seemed like a nice gesture at first with no real backing, but this was forgiveness. He had made the same choice for her twice. She was chosen and then pursued by him. She was being treated like a lost treasure. She not only was valued with Hosea, but she was missed when she was gone. He sought her out and brought her back into the life he wanted to give her, even knowing that she had betrayed him. Now imagine the confusion and the joy that Gomer would have experienced being taken back by Hosea. He was proving not only his devotion to her as a woman of honor and value, worth going after, he was proving to her just what kind of love God has for his people. Gomer had a rough life and made some bad decisions, but God specifically chose for her role in showing other people how far God is willing to go for them. He recovered her from isolation, and in doing so, represented how he himself seeks to recover all people from the world. Now, Gomer isn't the only biblical figure who ran from the plans God had made for them. They give you about 3 seconds to guess because it's like a really popular story. No, you're wrong. Elijah the prophet also did this. Once, God instructed Elijah to kill a group of false prophets, and even bestowed miracles to assist him with this. When he had done this, Queen Jezebel sent him a letter saying how she's going to kill him for this, and Elijah was terrified, so he ran. He went into the wilderness and hid himself in a cave. He was so hopeless that he prayed to God asking to die. This man had seen actual miracles, and this was a point in his life where he believed the pain he had endured was greater than all of the good. I hope this isn't relatable for most of you. I have to have so little hope in your future that you'd rather die now, but I know it is for some, and I've definitely had moments of feeling that myself. But God does not let that happen. Instead, Elijah falls asleep, and when he wakes up, he finds bread warming on coals and a jar of water. When he eats, he returns to resting and wallowing, but he's once again awoken to find a meal for him. On both occasions, Elijah was woken by an angel, encouraging him to eat and restore himself. Elijah asked God to destroy his body, but God nourished him. God saw that as much as Gomer needed to be pursued, Elijah needed to be cared for, and so he did. There's another section in Genesis with one of my favorite verses of God talking about how he regrets making humanity. And I find so much peace in that, and I'm going to explain why, because it sounds pessimistic, but it's really not. So this verse shows that God is not saying, there's not that much to worry about. They need to suck it up and do it right. It's not that hard. No. This is him addressing that creating us with free will, that means we have to endure so much pain from each other. He's saying that he sees it, and it's real, and he doesn't want us to suffer that. He weeps with us in it, and he says he never intended to hurt us more than we rejoice. Somehow, God always had the right thing to say. When Gomer ran away from God, all he said was, I know, let's go home. Elijah had witnessed firsthand the miracles of God and had been the instrument of his plans, and yet he still fled in fear when he faced a human threat. He prayed for death, and instead of ending him, God restored him. And he was simply present with him in his pain and gently guided him towards life again. When we are in the depths of our despair and our pain seems greater than anything else God says is real, and it isn't what he wants for us, God says that that pain is real, and he wants greater things. God cares more for you than your track record. Heaven isn't like a college or a sports team or anything else where they pick the best of the best and look at your resumes of good or bad deeds. You don't have to fight anyone for a spot. You aren't being compared to anyone else. You are being loved exclusively and infinitely, and it can't get closer to perfect than that. We know a God who acknowledges our pain, is present in our suffering, and cares not only for our souls, but our bodies. None of those instances I just talked about today did God tell anyone to just suck it up and be faithful. He affirmed their pain, restored them, and encouraged them to continue following him. So if there was a world where I had to pick what kind of God I wanted to follow, I would choose this God. God doesn't expect perfection from us. He brings it to us. Mistakes are natural, suffering is healthy, and God is here for you for it. So love God, love others, and love yourself. And have a great week. That's the end of the message.